Hi friends, uh, I'm creating this video for mostly IT professionals who are planning to come to US to work, and this video is also important for students in India who are planning to come to US for higher studies and then they plan to stay back in US to work after they complete their study either in undergrad or PG. So this is a very important video. Watch till the end, and at the end of the presentation, I think you will understand the nuances of each type of visas which are available, and you will take some informed decision. And this becomes very important in the context that many people in US, especially in the IT sector, they have lost the job, and then uh, out of those 30 to 40% of the people who have lost job, they are on H1, L1 or L1 or H1 or L1 visa, and then it has led to lot of issues and problems. So I encourage you to watch the video till the end, understand uh, the advantages and disadvantages of each type of visas, and then take some informed decision. So in US you have option of two types of visa. One is L1 and the other is H1B. So L1 is again divided into two parts or two types. One is L1A and the other one is L1B. L1A is a visa for managers or executives who are already working in an Indian company, and L1B is for the person with specialized knowledge. So difference between L1A and L1B is that if you are already a manager and then you qualify to come to US on L1A, but if you are not a manager and then you have some specialized knowledge which is rare, which is not easily available in US, then you qualify to come to US on L1B. The other thing is H1B visa, which is again distributed to people through lottery. So I will cover more details in the subsequent slides. So this is very important slide for you to understand. So as I have already explained you the difference between L1A and L1B, so I'll not go into the detail again. But important point to note here is that if the company wants to file a L1 visa for its employee, the employee should be working with that company for at least a year in order to meet the requirement of L1 visa. So this is very important point to keep in mind. So that is why I wanted to emphasize on this point. So if you are planning or if you think that the company should file for L1 visa for you, if it could be either L1A or L1B, then you should meet this criteria of at least 1 year working with that company. In this slide, we will talk about H1B visa, and this is again a very important visa, and this is mostly as I told you in my previous slide, the quota for H1B is 65,000 every year, plus 20,000 is reserved for students who have done bachelor's degree or master's degree in US. So the 20,000 seats are reserved for those category of students, and then the balance 65,000 is open for both students as well as IT professional. So the advantage, if you have done undergrad or masters from US, then as I told you before, H1B is a lottery based visa because number of applicant is more than the available seats. So what happens is that the student has an added advantage. So first they run the lottery for students, and then they give all 20,000 H1B visas to the students, and then the students who does not get selected in first 20,000, now they are moved to the pool of 65,000, and then they are added with the other people for whom the companies has filed H1B visa, and then they club together, and then the lottery is run again, and then the 65,000 people get selected from that pool. So if you are a student, you get actually you are getting two chance, and then your chances of getting selected on H1B visa gets increased. Now, the other important point is that H1B visa is filed by the employer, and then there are, as I told you before, uh, it specifically says that H1B visa is for the person of a specialized specialty occupation, and then again it is becoming similar to L1B now. So lot of paperwork now for H1B visa, and then there are other important prerequisite for you to apply for H1B visa. The most important one being a 4-year bachelor's degree or equivalent degrees, a master or a PhD degree, and then again this visa is mostly used by the IT professionals, and then as I told you before, most of the 65,000 seats are picked by Indian IT professional because they apply in huge numbers, so they get selected more compared to IT professionals from other countries. And then the employer must have an open job position in US for which they are not able to find an American employee. So that is why they are opting for H1B visa, and then they are bringing in people from other countries to work on that project or for that open position. So in the next two slides, I will concentrate on difference between L1 visa and H1B visa, and then after this two slide, you will have a clear picture of the pros and cons of these two visas, and then you will be in a better position to take decision that which visa is better for you, and basically better for you, as well as which visa is less risky for you in case you lose your job, or which visa gives you a path towards a green card. So basically if you look at L1, the advantage of L1 is that there is no quota for L1, so there is no lottery. So if a company apply for your L1 visa irrespective of L1A or L1B, if you do all the paperwork and if you fulfill the criteria, you will get that visa. So and then the biggest example is that the biggest advantage is that it can be applied anytime during the year, which is a very important or a big advantage for L1. Then basically, as I've told you before, it is for a transfer of employee from an overseas branch, which is a parent company of or a subsidiary of a US company to US. And then the other important thing is that you should have worked for at least 1 year in that organization. Otherwise, you cannot file a company cannot file a L1 visa for you. And then the other important point of L1 visa, which is basically advantage to the company, not to the employer, is that there is no exact salary requirement of L1 visa, other than it must not be low. So here a company is free to offer whatever salary they want to their L1 employee, and it is not a mandatory thing that it should match the current wage rate of the US employees. So if you are coming off on L1 visa, whether it is L1A or L1B, there is a possibility that you will be paid less compared to your counterpart in US. Now coming back to H1 visa, as I told you, it's a quota based thing and it always ends up having a lottery because the number of applicants are far more than the seats or the quota which is available, which I told you is 85,000. But again, out of 85,000, 20,000 goes to international graduates with advanced degree from US educational institutions. So important point to note it is if you have done any undergrad or masters or PhD from US, then 20,000 H1Bs are allocated to that, and then selection is via lottery, and then again there is a fixed registration period, and then uh, companies start preparing for that H1B visa from January, and then by March end or by April 1st, they have to file for H1B. And then basically H1B is to fill a open position in a US company that cannot be filled by an American citizen, and you must be well qualified for the job. As I have already told you before, uh, this other thing is that since it is open for new students for undergrad or for MS, then you don't necessarily need to have a previous work experience in that position when you are applying for H1 visa. And H1B visa must receive the same salary as other workers in that profession or the average salary for that position in US. So this is very important point. So if you are coming on H1B visa now, or if you're working on H1B visa, the possibility is that you will be paid on par or sometimes higher than your counterpart in US. So the biggest example, biggest advantage is that you will not get less salary if you are working on H1B visa, which is a very big advantage. But there are other disadvantages as well. The quota system, the lottery system. So you need to be lucky in order to get a H1B visa. So as I told you before, the advantages of L1 is that you don't need approval from US Department of Labor to get a L1 visa. So in other words, employer doesn't need to prove to the Department of Labor that there were no American citizen qualified for this job. And this is one of the biggest advantage that L1 visa has. So you don't have to satisfy the US government. And then with an L1 visa, the other important thing is that you can bring your spouse and unmarried children below the age of 21 years to live with you in US, and so your family gets you get L1 visa, and then your family gets L2 visa. And the most important advantage of L1 is that if you bring your spouse and she is qualified, or even if she is not qualified, she gets a L2, she gets an employment authorization document which is called EAD, and once she gets the EAD, so she can work in US. And so this is the biggest advantage, because what happens is that when we are moving from India to US, and then if your wife is working in India, she loses her job. And then when you come to US, you are able to work, but if she cannot work, then this could lead to uh, some financial issues, as well as you are not applying, your spouse is not able uh, to utilize her education qualifications, and then so it's a big problem for the spouse. So big advantage in L1, there's the process is simple, there's no quota system, the company can file for L1 visa anytime of the year. You can fly to US with your spouse, and you once your spouse gets a EAD card, he or she can start working immediately. Coming back to H1 So in this case, your employer must prove that they have an open application, and then there were no qualified workers in United States to work for that position. And then your employer does this by applying for an approval from the US Department of Labor, and afterwards the employer can apply for your H1B visa to USCIS. And then the other important point to remember is that you can also bring your spouse and unmarried children under the age of 21 on H1 visa. So you are on H1 and then your family members are on H2 visa. But the biggest problem here is that your spouse cannot work on H4 visa. The only so they have a option of H4 EAD, and then once they get a H4 EAD, your spouse can work, but with the biggest disclaimer, and that disclaimer is that once you are here on H1 visa, then you will have to persuade your current employer to file a green card for you, and as you have, and now it becomes more complex now. So once you file for your green card, then waiting period to get a green card for people from India is close to 18 years on H1B visa, 18 to 20 years. And then when you file, when the company files for your green card, then the step one is that once you get a perm or slash 140 approved, so once it is done, then your wife can file for the EAD, and once the EAD is granted, then the spouse can work on that visa. So this is a long waiting period for a spouse. So if you're an H1, your spouse cannot work for a long period of time. So you have to keep this in mind when you come on a H1 visa. So in this video, I will talk about once you get L1 visa or you get a H1 visa, what happens after that? Because those visas are issued for a limited period of time. So if you look at L1, L1 is always issues in accordance with your work contract. Suppose you have a project of 1 year, so L1 visa will be issued for 1 year. Suppose the project is for 1 year and 2 months, then you will get L1 visa for 14 months. So it's basically linked to the contract for which you are coming to US. And secondly, very important point to note here is that if you are coming on L1 visa, is always linked to your project. You cannot switch the company. You will have to work on that project, and then after completing that project, you have to move back. Now coming back to the other point is like L1A. L1A visa you only get for maximum 7 years, and for L1B you have it for 5 years. So in a nutshell, if you are on L1A, you can be in US for a maximum period of 7 years, and if you are on L1B, you can stay in US for a maximum period of 5 years. So very important point, whenever you are coming to US, what is your plan? Do you want to stay for a long term in US? Do you want to file for your green card eventually and then for your citizenship? Then what will happen is that you have to switch to H1 visa if you want your employer to file for your green card. And this is very important step. If you have a plan of going back to India, then there is no problem. But if you want to stay in US for long term and then eventually file your green card, then that is not possible on L1 visa. Now coming back to H1 usually you get it for 3 years initially, and then it can be extended for another 3 years. So you can extend your H1 for a maximum period of 6 years. But again, if you want to stay in US for a long term and then eventually you want your employer to file for your green card, then you will have to tell your employer to file for your green card, and then once you and the first step of green card is getting your perm and I I-140. So if you get your perm and I-140, then what happens is then your visa H1 visa gets extended for infinite period of time till you get your green card, because as I've stated before, uh, for people from India, the waiting period to get a green card on EB1 and EB2 category is close to 18 years, so which is a long time. And then your H1B is only valid for 6 years, so you need PERM and I-140 approved in order to continue to stay in US for long time. So this is what you have to keep in mind. So this is a very important slide for people who want to stay in US and then they aspire to get a green card. So I will start with L1A, which is a managerial category, and unfortunately everyone cannot come to US on this visa. But if you come to US on L1A, so what happens is that when your employer files for your green card, L1A qualifies for EB1C, and then you don't have to go through the perm certification process, and this is the fastest way to get green card in US. Now the important point to note here is that if you are people from uh, India and China, as I have already told you before, the wait time to get a green card is anywhere between 15 to 18 to 20 years. What happens is that if employer files for your green card, and if you are in L1B or H1B, usually you will fall into EB2 or EB3 category of green card. But if you are in L1A, you qualify for EB1C category, and then you will get your green card after filing in say maybe in 3 to 4 years. So if you plan to stay in US, ask your employer to file for your green card as soon as possible, and you will have the green card prior to expiration of your maximum 10 years of 7 years for L1A. If you are in L1B category, then there is a limitation. Even if employer files for your green card, you will most probably fall under EB2 or EB3 category, and the wait time is again 15 to 18 to 20 years, and then the total length or the total time for which you can stay in US on L1B is just 5 years. So your green card will not come on time, and you will have to go back to your home country or to India from where you have come. So if you want your green card to be processed, and then if you want to stay back, then you need to tell your employer to file for your H1, and then again the luck factor comes in. Before the expiration of your L1B visa, you should get H1, and so the best way is that if you plan to stay in US for a long time, uh, as soon as you land in US on L1B visa, tell your employer to file for your H1 as soon as possible. So maybe if the employer files for your H1 after 1 year, so and the total tenure for L1B is 5 years, so you will get roughly 3 to 4 chance of H1, and hopefully you will get picked in one of the draw. The last category is H1B. As I told you, H1B, the maximum period is 6 years. But if your employers file for your green card and then you get your approval for perm and I-140, then you can extend your H1B for as long uh, as possible, or till the time you get your green card. So technically, this is what H1B says. And also you should plan your green card filing well in advance, because normally it takes 18 to 24 months to get your perm and I-140 approved, and sometimes it takes more than that. So you have 6 years. So after 2 to 3 years, you should insist your employer to file for your green card, so that you have ample time in hand and you get your I-140 and perm before the whole tenure of H1B gets expired. So these are the very important thing which you should keep in mind when you are coming to India. I know everything is not in your hand. Everyone cannot come to US on L1A visa, but I'm sharing these slides and information which I have with me, so that you can take some informed decision. This is my last slide where we will conclude on what we have learned so far, and how do you take decisions. So uh, first and very important thing is, when you move to US, what is your intent? Is it a short-term stay? You just want to do the project, uh, visit some places in US and go back after expiration of the visa term, or the expiration of your project? Or the second thing is that, do you vision a long-term stay? By long-term stay, I mean you aspire to get a green card and you want to stay in US forever. Second very important point to consider is, what is the age of your child when you are coming to US, and if you want to stay for a long time. Because if once your child turns 21 and if you don't have a green card in hand, then the child will lose the immigration status to stay in US lawfully. So if your child was, say, on your H4 visa, which is a dependent H1 visa, and then he is more than 21 year of age, and if he is in school, so he may switch to F1 visa to continue to stay in US. But again, the things will become very complex, and once your child attains the age of 21. So you have to keep all these things in mind before you plan for your visit to US. Or by visit I means when you are coming to US for work. Short term, long term, age of your dependent children. So if you take my view, if you are coming on a short term, you can be on any visa, L1A, L1B, or even H1, because you will just work for your project and you will go back. But if you want to stay for a long term, then priority one is L1A visa, because because this gives you the easiest path to green card. Because if you are in L1A, you will fall under EB1C category, you don't need a perm, and then straight away you will get green card within 3 years, 3 to 4 years max, even if you are an Indian citizen. The second priority is H1B, of course, because once you are an H1B, your employers files for your green card, and you get your perm and I-140, then your H1B can be extended for a long period of time or till the time you get a green card. So this is priority 2. These are things on paper, but if you look at the recent layoffs, in the IT companies. So suppose you have been working on H1B for last 10 years and you are waiting for your green card. And since you had approved I-140 and perm in hand, so your H1 was getting extended beyond 6 years, and you were waiting for your green card, and suddenly you get laid off from the IT company or any company you are working for. You have just 60 days to find a new job. And what happens is, when the layoffs are happening, all other companies, they freeze their hiring process. So this is a very, very unfortunate situation where you are waiting for your green card, and you have invested in this country for say 10 years. You have a house, you have a car, your children, they are all studying in US, and suddenly within 60 days, if you don't find a job, you have to go back to your home country and you lose everything overnight. So please look at all these situations when you are planning to move to US. Look at all the aspects and all these visas which are available to you, and take an informed decision. Thank you for watching, and I hope I would have helped you in some way with my presentation. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.